So recently we had a huge upgrade to our home internet situation. We currently now have fiber. If you ever watched any of my Twitch streams before, you know my internet that I had prior to that was just absolutely terrible. We, constant disconnects, stream cutting off, lagging and things like that. And with fiber now, it is just absolutely amazing the difference between what I previously had and what I currently have. So when we had it installed, I actually had the fiber modem and the router installed into a different room down the other end of the house because I'm planning on removing my, streaming setup and my recording setup to that room. So it made sense to have the router and everything installed in that room. However, in the meantime, what I needed to do was to provide internet to this room right here. And my computer currently does not have Wi-Fi enabled, so I had to buy a Wi-Fi adapter to be able to connect to the Wi-Fi situation, which that brought up a whole nother host of problems that we're going to talk about in this video, and we'll go over all the ins and outs of everything that was done, how I changed things, trying to get a more stable connection over Wi-Fi while I'm still in this room right here. So one of the first things I did trying to get internet access to my computer was I went on Amazon looking for a little, cheap Wi-Fi adapter to be able to plug in my computer. And in this case right here, I bought this one. It was a Cootie, I guess I'm saying it right, 650 megabit per second USB Wi-Fi adapter, 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz, bandwidth connection that it would connect to. So, plugged it in. I figured, I'm set to go connect to the internet, and my speeds were extremely slow. When I say extremely slow, I'm talking about like, 5 megabits down and maybe a half a megabit per second up. And I was like, no, this is not going to work at all. This is not going to work for streaming. This is not going to work, for, even browsing the internet. It was just absolutely miserable. So with the router at the other end of the house, I noticed that whenever it was connected, that it was only connecting to the 2.4 gigahertz band. So I was like, well, maybe I can force it to connect to the 5 gigahertz. So I messed around when it reconnect, and it finally connected to the 5 gigahertz band. And my speeds were much, much more improved. About 100 megabits down and around 23 up, which is what I normally, get. I pay for 500 megabits per second down with an upload speed of 25. So this was much improved. However, I noticed on my phone was much faster, even in the same room as I'm in right now. And I was like, this is still a little bit slow. And another thing I noticed as well is that sometimes it would connect, sometimes it wouldn't connect. And while it was connected, it would get like intermittent disconnection issues where I would be, browsing a web page or whatever, and it would just not load at all. And I was like, I cannot use this. I can't stream from this. Making YouTube content is one thing, but trying to stream from a connection that is completely unstable, this is what I had before. The issue I had prior to, having fiber was, being disconnected from the internet. So my next step was, I'll buy a Wi-Fi extender. So I did a lot, research about it. I've got TVs that connect to the Wi-Fi. I've got one in my bedroom, and we've got tablets, devices, and phones and things like that. So, and my house is relatively big. It's about 1,650 square foot. So I want to make sure I had full coverage, throughout the house. So next step was to get a Wi-Fi extender. This is what I did. I got this one right here. Is a TP-Link AC 1200 Wi-Fi extender. Did notice that it didn't make the TV in the living room, no buffering or things like that. So I was like, okay, so let's check, make sure it's going to work with my computer. So again, same little Wi-Fi, dongle that I was using that I just showed you, still having the exact same issue. Disconnects, not good signal. And I was like, what? I'm like, the whole purpose of this thing is that I get better signal service for my Wi-Fi adapter that I'm using on my computer. So no noticeable signal boost difference whatsoever when it came to having this set up in the living room, and it connects to 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz, and I still had the same disconnect issues. So I was like, oh my god, now what I'm gonna do? Still having the same issues. So next step was to invest in a better Wi-Fi connection for my computer, which is exactly what I did. And this is one I got right here. It was a TP-Link USB Wi-Fi adapter. It's a AC 1300 megabits per second dual band. Again, connects to 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz wireless connection, and it works a lot better. So once I got it set up and installed, it connected, to the 5 gigahertz bandwidth. Speeds were pretty stable, on average, but they were still not what I thought they should be. So even though I was using the Wi-Fi extender, made very little difference in my speed, top speed as far as it goes. Like I said, I paid for 500 megabits down, 25 up, and I was not getting anywhere near that whatsoever. Tested it on my phone. I'll show you some speeds in a minute from tests I did whenever I had this connection set up. But one thing I have noticed, and one thing I did notice as well, is that a Wi-Fi, extender really made no difference in my house as far as actual stability for my connection. I use two different dongles, the one that I'm showing right now, and a little small one as well. The only way I would even recommend the first one is if you just don't have internet access at all on a device and you need something quick, portable, only go on a laptop. But like I said, most laptops, have a Wi-Fi adapter built in. So I'm being honest with you, they're probably better than what this one is. It worked, it connected, but it was just completely unstable. Even with the Wi-Fi extender, it just did not work. Connection was not stable at all. Upgrading to the TP-Link USB Wi-Fi adapter, connection was more stable, but it still would try to connect to the 2.4 gigahertz band. And in doing so, it would, the speeds would just be absolutely hard. Maybe at best 5 megabits down with like a half a megabit up, which was just, absolutely unusable. And my old internet was actually better and faster than that. Does a Wi-Fi extender make a difference when it comes to providing internet access in your house? From my experience and what I've seen, nothing different whatsoever. Speeds were pretty much still the same, even when switching to the TP link and using the Wi-Fi, connecting to the Wi-Fi extender. Unplugging the Wi-Fi extender made, no difference as far as actual, signal quality to the device. Speeds were still pretty much identical, no, great increase in speeds at all. So if at all possible, connect directly to an Ethernet cable to your device, to your computer, and you'll have a much more stable internet connection, whether you use a computer, laptop, whatever it is. If you have the option to connect to Ethernet, please do so. And that is what we've done right now. We've actually ran two 50-foot, well, actually, they're 100-foot Ethernet cables from the router that is in the other room into the room down here where the computer's at. In the meantime, until we get ready to move, my setup into that room down there. All right, y'all. So this is my experience with a Wi-Fi extender with two different types of Wi-Fi adapters for a computer. A little small dongle, better, a little bit better, more expensive, Wi-Fi adapter with antennas on it. So this is what I've come across in my experience. Wi-Fi extenders. Ah, I really don't see the benefit of them in the long run. Signal quality didn't really make any change. Speeds were not any different. Let me pop up real quick some of the speeds that I was showing. That way you would see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so let me pop up this window real quick. And I'm going to show you what my old speeds were with my old internet. And then I'll show you what my new speeds were with the fiber internet. So as you can see right here, we've got my old speeds right here were, on average around, 45 down, maybe 6 up. And, it fluctuates pretty good bit in there. We got ping levels around 50 milliseconds, sometimes be 76, things like that. So on average, that is what my internet used to be right there, pretty much, 50 down, 15 up, whenever the weather was right. What I used actually prior to getting fiber was fixed wireless internet. So it was dependent upon cell tower coverage and cell tower signals. And then we're going to scroll up just a little bit right here. And you'll notice where it changes. When I first had a little dongle in there, we had like 176 down. And that was only when it connected to the 5 gigahertz band. And it pretty stable around 176. The only issue was that it would intermittently disconnect using that little Wi-Fi dongle. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about in just a second. So I was scrolling up a little bit, and there we go. Those are the numbers whenever it would, decide it would want to disconnect, and it, just did not work at all. And then it would reconnect, and we would be back around here, and then it would just fluctuate all over the place. So, 191 down, 23 up. But again, the connection was completely unstable, and it would not stay connected to that all the time. You'd be in the middle of doing something, and it would just randomly disconnect. And so, as you can see, various, jumping from 150, 25 down, 23 up, and again, just all over the place when using that little Wi-Fi dongle. So again, there's one with 0.39 with 13 up. So a lot of it was just around, and then right here is where you notice the difference at. And that is 263 down with 23 up. And that was when I switched to the TP-Link with the antennas on it. And again, pretty much consistent across the board, 260, 250. You would get some in there for like 170 or whatever. But again, and then you would go back again, 49 down, 11 up. So the connection was just all over the place, even using, the Wi-Fi extender and using the upgraded antenna. So now you're going to start noticing that things change. And that is when I switched over to running the Ethernet cable directly from the router in here to this room. So now we're getting what we should be, and that's 500 down, 23 up, and you can see right here all the way to the end. Pretty much identical. There's one odd one in there. I don't know why. I think when I first started my computer up, it just took it a second and wasn't ready. But for the most part, all around the same thing. 500, 480. They got some in there like 386 and 490. But makes a huge difference when you switch to a solid, Ethernet cable versus Wi-Fi, and the inconsistencies that come with using Wi-Fi for an internet connection. All right, so y'all, this is what I want to do. Just give you a few ideas of what it is, to have a Wi-Fi extender. Maybe if you're in like a two-story house or whatever, and you're trying to get, in your routers upstairs or your routers downstairs, and you're trying to get signal that you don't have, to a room in the opposite end of the house. Wi-Fi extender might be useful, to cover that little blank area in there, but it's not going to drastically change your speeds at all. They're pretty much going to be the same across the board, whether you've got a, cheap one or whether you've got a more expensive Wi-Fi. My thing is, if you're going to be using Wi-Fi, invest in a better quality one. Don't you do like I did. Try and cheap out getting a little Wi-Fi dongle for like $12 and expect your internet situation to be very stable. It was not, and it will not. But anyway, y'all, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something from it. Look forward to seeing you next one. Until then, much love, peace out, and we'll see you soon.